sticking with Flair, and I believe that he actually sent in his resignation to Jim Herd fairly early in 1990, citing Herd's constant changing of approved booking direction after the fact. So, before I continue with this, actually, were you aware, purely as talent at that time, that Jim Herd was sticking his oar in, creatively speaking, at this time?
Sticking his what in?
His oar.
I'd heard that. Because I brought it up. He wanted to book some crazy match that it never made air, and Flair, I guess he took as much as he could take. And Flair wasn't in there long. How long was Flair like the head of it?
Yeah, well, it was a revolving door at that point. But
yes,
I think the actual ratings climbed a bit while Ric Flair was in charge, but then Jim Herd got involved and then Rick just quit. And Ric Flair ends up refusing to drop the world title to US champion Lex Luger on March 23rd, 1990 at the Chicago UIC Pavilion. Flair had originally agreed to drop the title, but only if Jim Herd granted him his release from WCW. Herd refused. Of course, at this time, Herd famously wanted Flair to cut his hair and rename him Spartacus. Is this the most insane idea you've ever heard?
Oh, my God, I've forgotten that. Oh, Spartacus. Even Flair looked at him like, you gotta be friggin' shitting me. I'm not doing that, and I don't blame him there. But see, Flair is a type, he didn't want to be told what to do, and especially by a pizza guy, who has not an ounce of creativity in his whole body. So, and that's how out of control it was. Where did Ted Turner go in all this? Did he just get rid of it or what? I forgot.
No, he bought it in late 1988, and Turner Broadcasting owned it until the merger of like AOL Time Warner, I think. So he was always there. He just rarely turned up.
See, Ted Turner was a friend of wrestling. He had said that without wrestling, his channel, his initial little UHF channel, Channel 17, would have died. And that's when he got on cable all across the country. And and this is what expanded wrestling, because now everybody that had cable, not everybody, of course, but a lot of people had access to Georgia Championship Wrestling. It was 6:05 every Saturday. They liked the 5 because that made them different from the other channels. 6:05. And you could remember that too. And he has said without wrestling, his whole thing would have failed. It wouldn't have made it. It paid the bills, he said. So he said, and he always liked wrestling anyway. He was a friend of wrestling. And I've told the story. He used to come into the station and meet everybody. And he brought Sophia Loren and a few more actresses through there just to show that he was showing them what he had. And all of a sudden, I had a bunch of wrestlers getting dressed. That's the wrestlers, and but he had a hell of a thing going. And to imagine that a guy that came out of the blue, like Ted Turner, and had a vision for the future. He was a genius. He really was. And you could talk to him. He would stand out there and you could actually go up to him and say, hey, can I ask you something? And he would stand there and talk to you. He wasn't unapproachable. That's what I'll say about him. And it's probably one of the keys to his success.
Just going back to Ric Flair becoming Spartacus, apparently, apart from the hair cutting, Jim Herd also wanted him to wear a diamond earring. I forgot to mention that.
Oh, well,
here he is, the short blonde-haired Spartacus with the diamond earring.
Yeah. Notice the earring. I don't get it.
Did you actually hear that at the time, or is that something that's just come out?
No, I heard the Spartacus. I heard of the hair cutting, which the hair was Flair's deal anyway. The blonde hair,
a ponytail at the time. It was the longest it ever was. So that would have been a big deal if it went.
Well, I was hearing things like bits and pieces. I didn't care anyway. Some of that backstage stuff, it didn't affect me. I just wanted to go to work and just leave me alone. Whatever they did, they did.